Hey everybody, welcome to Tech Anarchy, episode 3.5. We recorded earlier in the week and we decided to split up the episode into two pieces. So this is the second half of episode 3, and I hope you enjoy.
Great, we're back.
Yeah, we had a little technical difficulties where the Audio Hijack Pro stopped hijacking.
Yeah, so hopefully people will just kind of our listening audience will just kind of hear one moment to the next, but I don't really want to edit it because I really like just one big feed. So Jennifer, I appreciate you noticing so quickly that we were off, not being recorded, even though we were talking, and we went down this great road. But I think maybe we may use that for another time, for another episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really want to edit us heavily, and have this quote unquote NPR effect, where everybody sounds smart and brilliant, like they came from Caltech or whatever. But I really liked where we were going, so that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you guys we had about 10 to 12 minutes of really cool content, and so we'll save it for the next show. And it was way off the segment of biometrics. So
It was.
yeah.
I think because I mentioned Art Bell, and that's where Skype was like, nope, this is not related to what you're talking about. So, but we did talk about. I believe the book was called
The Holographic Universe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so yeah, back to the subject at hand. One of the news articles was that that traveling through space and time now seemed highly likely, based on this group from NASA, and they kind of built what appears to be a spaceship that can travel through to stars using this warp bubble that it generates, and so. I thought that was really cool. I posted links on Google+, but right when I read the article, my first thought was of this movie in like 2000 called Supernova, and the ship design was so unique. I believe it was designed by Lockheed Martin. They actually contracted Lockheed Martin. They contracted Lockheed Martin to come up with this spaceship that could travel through space and time. It's interesting. They're actually in the credits of the movie.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I posted a video on our Google Plus page of this ship traveling from point A to point B, and it's this interesting effect. The ship creates a line in space and time in which it just kind of slides through. Because one thing that the article, and I'm linking this NASA article in our show notes, but from Extreme Tech, but when NASA talks about creating a warp bubble around the space, they don't around the spaceship that can travel in space time. They don't really talk about how that warp bubble would actually travel. So that's kind of interesting that is left out. But Supernova kind of, in my mind, bridges what they don't talk about, in that you really do need to define a point A and point B in which you then slide through space and time. So they created a way to travel through space and time. Now I think what needs to happen is that they need a place to slide to and slide back. And that's where, this concept of like stargates or whatever comes in play, because the stargates kind of act as your destination points.
Yes. I can't wait to see Supernova, by the way. I haven't seen it. And so when you brought up that reference, I'm like, oh, that's such a cool film. Why haven't I not seen that yet? Because that came out back in, the 90s, right? I think.
Yeah, pretty early.
Yeah. So...
I just watched the movie to see the spaceship, quite honestly.
Neat.
Yeah, because I had a friend...
fascinating ship.
Yeah, I had a friend mention it, and he's like, make sure you watch the credits, because he knew that my eyebrows would definitely lift on that credit. But yeah, it's an interesting concept. But yeah, so reading this article made me think of that movie, and I was like, well, maybe Lockheed Martin thought that there was something to that ship design they designed for this film. So, but yeah, we in our lifetime we could see humanity travel to the stars. So it's quite interesting and fascinating at the same time to see these articles come out.
Yeah, it is fascinating that it's Star Trek is closer than we think.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things with Star Trek, though, is that the ship just freely traveled through space and time, and I don't think that's possible. And I think that's where Supernova is really critical. You really have to see that movie, because when you think about it, you really it would almost be like Sliders. Are you familiar with Sliders, the TV series?
No, I haven't. Sliders, Sliders.
Sliders, Sliders.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's this a team of physicists kind of go back in time, but they keep on going back in time, and they can never get back to the reality.
Yeah, I remember that show. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the problem. If you travel to the stars, you need to get back, and when you're traveling faster than light, you're essentially going through time as well. So you would have to be able to come back to the time you left. And that's where, defining the points in space and time are so critical. And a supernova does that so well. So just another example, kind of where we were going in our first episode when we were talking about where the innovators in literature and sci-fi of today, that is an example of how just coming up with a simple movie problem could lead to innovation, and the next thing you know, we're reading about it. So yeah,
very, very neat, exciting,
really cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, I posted that in our show notes. But I think everybody will be interested in reading up on show notes on Tech Anarchy. So let's get into what this episode is about after our technical interruptions.
After an hour of everything else.
Yeah. Well, it's really a good topic, and it was one that I hope that we could have talked about with a little more enthusiasm with the introduction of an iWatch last week, but we never saw an iWatch.
No, we didn't. But is it not right around the corner? It didn't.
I hope it is.
Yeah, I think it was Robert Scoble that was talking on This Week in Tech last week about knowing people that have the iWatch, that are testing it, and that it will blow everything else out of the water. Was what he said. So if he's saying that and his sources are saying that, I'm pretty excited to see that come.
Definitely, and from what I'm hearing as well too, it's really, really cool stuff. And I was really hoping that we would see an announcement, but what Jennifer and I are referring to is the wonderful world of your quantified self, and that's devices like iWatch, that's devices like Fitbit, Nike Fuel Band, all these devices that we haven't thought of, that are being worked on next year and years to come, that just capture data about who you are and what you do from a day-to-day basis. And what's so exciting about this is that, 21% of Americans already use these self-tracking technologies. So what's exciting about it is that, it kind of fine-tunes that number and maybe brings more people into the fold because it is more precise in capturing who you are and what you're doing. But then on the other hand, you can do so much more with your devices that you have currently that you can't do now. Like, I have a Leap Motion device on my desktop, and I actually use it quite often to switch screens on my Mac, switch from like spaces. So I just do a swipe left or right to go, from one space to another on my MacBook. And if I had like a simple wearable tech device, this is something where I wouldn't even need a gadget on my desktop. It would automatically know that I'm kind of swiping left or right just by wearing it on my wrist. So it's, all these devices that you have to interact with currently with the keyboard and whatnot. Just imagine what this wearable tech could unlock in the future. And
there's, and there was even not wearable. It's not necessarily with the quantified self necessarily, but and it bugs me that I was trying to remember before the show started what the name of the service was, but I had put something out there on Google Plus a few weeks ago, and it was about using Wi-Fi within your home or business, and the sensors or through the waves that are around you would be able to see or interpret your movements, so that you would be able to use gestures in the air where no matter where you are, as long as you're on that Wi-Fi connection, to control your TV, control your computer, control the lights, control anything that's being hooked up to it. So it's quite fascinating, and there was a display, of a video of that, and seeing that in use was quite amazing. And I thought, wow, that's really great. That's a lot better than the Kinect, because you don't need a camera watching you. You just move, and the Wi-Fi determines where you're moving your hand and what you're doing somehow. So I guess the changes in the waves in the area in it.
That is fascinating. So it's a low tech, low energy. It's through wavelength.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So is it?
Yeah, it's using. I'm trying to find. Let me see if I can find it on my Google Plus page. I posted it a few weeks ago, and it is bugging me that I cannot remember the name of it, or that I didn't bookmark it in an important place. That's
just an example of how wearable tech could have allowed you to bookmark this article that you discovered so quickly.
Oh, here it is. Okay, and I will put the link here in the chat room for us. It's by YZ, WISEE, and I'm pasting it in the Skype window for you, Tim, so you can take a look at it. And it is, it says that leverages ongoing wireless transmissions in the environment to enable whole home sensing and recognition of human gestures. Since wireless signals do not require line of sight and can traverse through walls, YC can enable whole home gesture recognition using few wireless sources, example, wireless router and some mobile devices in the living room. So,
wow, that is fascinating.
Very cool. Yeah.
That is very freaky.
I love it.
I'm sure we'll get to that in a second, but when I see commercial uses of this technology, I right away think that the military has probably been using this for a while.
Probably so. I'm sure they probably already are.
But that's fascinating. Yeah, because, they mentioned Connect and Leap Motion like you were discussing, but one of the problems with Leap Motion is that you do have to have a device present. And it's fascinating to think that that gestures could be made without the device being present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. YC is the first wireless system which can identify gestures in line of sight, non-line of sight, and through-the-wall scenarios. Through-the-wall scenarios. Yeah. What scenarios are those?
So I guess meaning that like my router is in the other room, or maybe something's connected to the lights, and I just move. But being that I'm on the same Wi-Fi network, it's going to detect my motion.
I think we're on to something, because I heard an Apple rumor that the iWatch is not just going to control or be able to log kind of like exercise stuff. Like, it's actually made to be the central hub of your house.
Oh.
And they're saying that it could like control lighting and stuff. I was like, how would that be possible?
I wonder if it would use like a Wemo for that, maybe, or something to.
Or what if it was kind of like this wireless hub?
Yeah,
kind of
it could be. Possibly so.
That's amazing. This technology, we're just going to see more of this week on the Tech Anarchy Google Plus page. I made a comment on PS4's use of this kind of quantified self technology, and the controller is actually chock full of it.
Neat.
And not only that, but Sony has confirmed that they're going to be using the controller to actually come up with biometric kind of new biometric applications for PS4. So, the center of the controller is like a touchpad, but it also comes with other technologies which allow you to do some really cool stuff. And so Sony has their own research division. Mm-hmm. And then I also found out this morning that Sony has their own watch too, kind of like the Samsung.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow, everyone's getting on the watch bandwagon.
Yeah, exactly.
I read the other day that Microsoft has prototypes of their own version of Google Glass. So they're getting on that bandwagon.
I saw that. So what do you think would be first? Do you think glasses? Do you think watches? Or like YC is doing, where you don't even have to wear or have a device present? What do you think comes first?
I think what will be first will be the watches. Because right now, if you think about it, we already have that out there with the Pebble watch. It's not the smart, and then the Samsung one. So I think that will be first. Then probably Google Glass and the ones that are making similar ones. And then YC, because YC will take more than just buying a device. I think it will probably, I would imagine you're going to have to wire your lights up to the Wi-Fi and, other items in your home to do type of home automation type things. And so I think it's a little bit more of an investment probably. And also YC's not out yet. But there is a video of it that's quite awesome. So it's definitely working.
Yeah, and I'm going to be posting a video on on our Google Plus page. But thanks for sharing that link, because I was just reading about the new 802.11 spec coming out next year,
and the DC one.
Yeah, DC, and I it was really like the entire.
Or no, AD.
Well, there's AC.
It's AC right now, but then the new one
AC,
is it AD the new one, or is it DC?
I'm looking it up as we speak.
No, I'm forgetting. Isn't that something?
AD.
It is AD. Okay.
Yeah, AD. But in further spectrum that they're actually going to make available for Wi-Fi. But I was floored when I saw that the spec for cordless USB was announced and approved. So we could see all these devices, these USB devices, which finally do not need cords. I mean, it could really kind of compete with Bluetooth.
Nice.
But because Wi-Fi kind of has, you actually consider connecting devices using Wi-Fi, but Bluetooth is so low energy, and it's just sending data via Bluetooth is just impossible. You can send basically text, and that's it. With Wi-Fi, we're talking about file sharing. We're talking about lots of stuff.
It's just mind-blowing when you think of it, though, that all these bits are around us, right? And they're being reassembled on this end of things, and it's just amazing that these invisible bits are out there.
Yeah.
and it, I don't know, it just makes me question everything. It just
Are we going to accidentally be our quantified self is going to be intermingled with our quantum self,
Yes,
and next thing we know, we're going to be sent through the matrix.
That's it, exactly.
Accidental worlds collide. Next thing you know, you can beam yourself into the movie you're watching.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's great.
But I love that, though.
Yeah.
Wireless USB. I mean, I'm all about wireless, even though it always blows my mind. I'm all about wireless. That's who isn't, right? I mean, because there's so much. I just have too many cords. There's too much spaghetti everywhere. So.
Well, here's an interesting fact. Everybody is complaining about how the Mac Pro, the new Mac Pro coming out, the black cylinder of awesome is what I call it.
Yes.
How it would require you to connect all these USB peripherals to it, and how it really doesn't make sense. But what if the new Mac Pro is kind of built with, the knowledge that that cordless USB is going to become the thing of the future, and that you really aren't going to have to be dealing with all these cords.
Yeah. So
then it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it would.
Interesting. Now, yeah. So, but yeah, the USB-IF is what they're calling it. USB-IF, designed to allow wireless devices and docking stations to communicate over the USB protocol without the need for physical USB connection.
Nice.
Isn't that cool?
It says about a year maybe out. Maybe 2 years. So this is developing the spec will take a year. Getting products out to market could take another year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so a few years. Neat.
Okay, a few years. But if you buy the Mac Pro now,
yeah.
So 2 years' time, you can still keep that Mac Pro.
You'll be able to use it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's really cool, and it kind of goes back into what we're talking about, quantified self, and how just the new protocols that are going to be coming about, just to make measuring data more precise. But as we use wearable tech, then it's going to be everywhere where we are, not only in the den or the living room, but it's also going to be when we're jogging or when we're working, and it's fascinating.
It is fascinating. It reminds me, and not to keep on bringing up Robert Scoble, but he and I think it was Cheryl Lazar just put out a book called Age of Context. Very good book, but it talks about how not just wearable technology, but it did talk about a lot about wearable technology, how everything that we have right now that we're encountering is contextual, right? So let's say we go into a mall and there's these beacons there and they know that we're there, and we'll get contextual advertisements perhaps saying, Ann Taylor having a sale because it knows that I'm at the mall. So things like that. And it's...
totally. Using iBeacons, Apple iBeacons to deliver.
The iBeacons, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't... People should not be freaked out by this. What this is going to allow advertisers to do is, instead of just spamming you with ads, it's going to allow them to target you based on whether or not you like them. I mean, spam is going to be dead, because you're going to only be able to... You're only going to be consuming the content which you want to consume, and that's because advertisers will know you better. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, they're going to have to know more information about you to make that happen.
Right.
So there's that argument that's going to have to, or that debate, which is going to have to, go through media circles for the next few years. But, I think in the end, we're going to end up with less spam. No more of this direct mailing or any of that junk. people are going to be able to mail directly to the people that they need to mail to. They're going to be able to, I mean, even the United States Postal Service has a system which they could mail you targeted stuff based on your preferences. And you can be able to get, in their newest spec, you can be able to get PDFs of your printable mail before you get it in the mailbox, you know?
Neat.
So there's lots of cool stuff out there. Just imagine getting a PDF of, you know, maybe an insurance claim that you just filed on your watch right before, you know, before you get it in the mailbox, you know?
Yeah. Or on the watch to be able to see those important updates that you really want to see, right? So, you know, maybe even, was it you that was saying this a few weeks ago?
Notifications, yeah.
Yeah, notifications of your favorites and of the people that you really want to follow. And yeah, that way, you know, not everything will come through because I get, I don't know, at least 100 emails a day. And I wouldn't want to see all of that. But I do, you know, like with I have my VIPs set in my iPhone. And so I'll get notified specifically if my mom messages me or emails me or my boss, for example. So
Exactly.
I'd like to see that on my phone. I mean, on my watch.
On your watch,
On my watch.
yeah. I mean, I think Notification Center, which you now see in Mavericks, and they even added the Notification Center. They added LinkedIn, they added Twitter and
I love
iMessage. Directed in notification, you want to know why? I think I chat Twitter and LinkedIn, and right now you see it in Mavericks, but I think this is what you're going to be seeing on the iWatch. I think you're going to be able to instant message, Twitter and LinkedIn, just like that, and then have Do Not Disturb right above there, just like that.
That'd be great.
You know, the key to UX is, good UX is to kind of get the user subjected to new radical ideas before you really want to debut it. And I think that's kind of what they're doing with various Maverick stuff.
Clever.
Yeah. And the VIP list, to your point, I think is another way of doing that, because it makes sense for mail, but it really doesn't make sense when you think about it, because you probably are, based on spam filters, you probably only get in your mailbox what you want to view if you know how to set your spam filters. But VIP makes more sense when you consider all this wearables tech stuff and how that would kind of translate into notifications on this wearable tech stuff. And all of a sudden VIP is emails, it's phone calls, it's, you know, it's all this stuff that you can then limit to your wearable tech. So
I like that. And
yeah.
Not to change the topic, but I just have to say that when it comes to email addresses, the one email address that I never get spam on is my Apple email address.
Hey, same here. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. So you don't either, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I set the junk mail filter's really good, but here's my problem with the junk mail. I have several machines running Mavericks right now, running mail. And I noticed that on one PC, I actually get all my junk mail filtered to that PC. Or, sorry, I said PC. I get all my junk mail filtered to my Mac Pro. And then on my iOS device, I don't even see any of that junk mail.
Nice. So that's
Even in
interesting.
my
It all
junk
goes to one.
settings.
I don't even notice anything in my junk mail. I just don't have any. And I have email addresses with, you know, Gmail, Yahoo, and Microsoft Live, Hotmail, Outlook, you know, all that stuff. And even an old AOL address that I got, not because I use AOL, just to just so I could test things with other AOL users. I have to say that. And that's why I got it. So, and then that one's, you know, but I always noticed that Apple, I never, granted, I use it, but I don't enter it in on websites either. I don't really, maybe that's why, but.
Yeah, but yeah, I think first, you know, filtering through that junk mail, not even seeing it is part of the battle, right? Because you don't want to be bombarded with all these ads or all these messages that don't really pertain to you when it's so close to you and you're wearing it every day.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
So
I think the wearable tech is kind of like maybe a 20-year vision for Apple, because, you know, we're just talking watches and Pebble and all that stuff, but I'm thinking, you know, with Apple's newly acquiring talent from the fashion industry, I think Apple really plans to be maybe teaming up with Nike on clothing, on some type of apparel lines, and we could be seeing this kind of functionality in clothes, you know, and packaging.
Yeah,
which would be cool.
that'd be very cool.
Yeah, like if I'm at a store getting perfume for my wife, and I really like this perfume, but I'm not really sure if she'll like it. I don't really have to like write down the name of the brand. I can just set my notification center to accept this brand as like kind of like whitelisted, and then I get ads from them and stuff. So. That's kind of where I see wearable tech going in the future.
What would you like to see when you get the iWatch? What would you like to see built into it right now, if it were launching in let's say a couple of months?
Yeah, so that's the biggest question, right? What would I like to see out of it?
Yeah.
I'm more into content, obviously. I'm a creator first and foremost, and my biggest thing about let's just say comics in general is that it's really hard to distribute comics if you're not going with one of the major distributors like a Diamond or something like that. But a majority of income, which is generated by comic artists, is done through conventions. They make because the distributor and the comic store and the publisher, like whether it be Image or DC, they take up so much of the profit that in the end, the artist is probably making like minus 1% in profit when they go through that road, but they make it up when they're doing like drawings and selling their books themselves at the comic conventions. What I would like to see is I would like to see a bunch of, like, let's say someone were to come up to my booth and I had a comic, but the problem is that I'm charged sales tax when I pass that comic to someone in the form of a sale. But what I would rather see is I would rather see someone come up with, let's say, wearable tech, and I say, hey, just let me just wave your hand and wave your hand in front of my QR code, and it'll set you up for a subscription.
Nice, yeah.
So I really see wearable tech as being a conduit for, to artists, as maybe another form of distribution, where right now we have Square readers, which, people can kind of make a point of purchase sale through this device where you swipe a credit card. But I'm thinking one step further. I'm saying, what if this device is already coupled with the credit card, i.e. iWatch or a fingerprint reader? Then what's next? Well, at this point, I can directly make a transaction to this individual. So that's where I see the watch as being such a big deal, because I really see artists being able to directly send not only comics, but maybe music or maybe artwork, receipts. I really see them being able to transfer that straight to a watch. And then when they get home, they could sync it to their computer and get the product, so. Yeah.
Or maybe even via AirDrop, right? Maybe they would have AirDrop to the watch.
I would love to see that. that gives me goosebumps, because if we had AirDrop straight to the watch, then it's pretty much like podcasting, right? And that people will be downloading all this content as they walk around for a day. And then by the time they get to their desktop, they just get to look at all the content they interacted with without even knowing it.
That would be cool.
Yeah. I mean, we're just thinking about like AirDrop in the form of like an artist passing content, but what if the milk that I purchase can AirDrop me a coupon next time?
Yeah, exactly. That would be really neat. That's what I was thinking, even having some type of coupon being AirDropped to your device or to your watch and have it pop up.
Yeah, all of a sudden machines kind of have a voice and they can talk to you.
Yeah. See, I definitely like I don't want to make it a glorified Fuel Band or Fitbit, but I really would love to see an accurate representation built into an iWatch, and then it also, for me to be able to talk to it, to make phone calls, to search for things, to have instant feedback via Siri. So, that kind of stuff is what I'm seeing with it. But I really like your idea of using it to make payments. Even that kind of reminds me of Google Wallet, where with an Android, how you can tap to pay. If maybe they're going to go in that direction, maybe not necessarily with NFC, but with another technology, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, Bluetooth 4 actually has that in the spec. You can do that with Bluetooth 4.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
which is, so, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Not with NFC, but something else. But you're exactly right. I mean, just imagine like a Google Wallet type of concept for all these iOS devices or any device. I mean, we're just talking Apple, right? But what if Nike kind of had the same kind of thing? You're talking about ecosystems being created by all these wearable tech manufacturers, which, encourage not only further future purchases, because you can't just get the band without the shoes, right?
Right. Right.
But also it allows you to maybe get a better sense of who you are and what your activities are, and notification centers, whether it be Google or Apple or Nike or whatever, end up just being like a journal, a digital journal of yourself. Which kind of brings me to this health, or to this Pew Research study that I discovered, and it was done June 4, 2013, and it was conducted by Susanna Fox, who's on this self-tracking panel called Health Data Palooza, which I think is funny, in Washington, D.C. But she came out with this study that basically says that, and this is current now, the 60% of U.S. adults say they track their weight, diet, or exercise routine.
I would believe. Well, 60% might seem kind of. Well, I guess that means they track not necessarily on a mobile device. So I guess that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is what surprises me, is that 34% of these people say they track data on paper. Yeah,
that is surprising.
Yeah, where's like Moleskine when you need them, or Evernote? They could easily write an app for that.
On paper, I mean, unless they're talking to some people that are really older, I guess. I don't know.
It probably is. It's interesting that maybe our elders are kind of tracking.
I can see them doing
activity.
It on paper. Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of in the closet, and Apple knows this, and they're just waiting to to tap into this 34% market.
It's yeah, and it says 49% keep track in their heads. Okay, I can believe that. And only 21% use some form of technology to track their health.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is surprising. I guess it's, especially with all the different apps that we have out there, right? There's so many different health apps. On my phone alone, I think I have 3, but I probably have installed at least 10 to 15 different ones just to try them all. And it's really, wow, it's kind of surprising. Yeah.
Well, 40% of trackers say it has led them to ask a doctor new questions or to get a second opinion from another doctor. And I think it's interesting because a few years back when I had my cancer scare, the doctor said that they actually have a phrase for it, and it's called Googleitis. And it's where people come into the office and they think they know, what it is just because of being able to Google. And he said most often the cases that they're wrong.
That's great.
But they find themselves having to convince the patient otherwise. Instead of the patient just trusting the doctor, now it's the exact reverse. The doctor has to prove the patient wrong.
That's funny. I could see that being true. I think that doctors will tell people don't look online, hey, you've been diagnosed with this, but don't read about it online because you're going to find all this stuff and it will just worry you. And,
Yeah,
so,
don't touch the hot stove. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to touch the hot stove, man. But this wearable tech really kind of paves the way into the medical field also, and that's probably the most exciting aspect of all this healthcare the quantified self technology is that not only will you understand yourself, but the doctor can better understand who you are. Mm-hmm. And I used to work in the training sector for 8 years, and at the very end, we were talking to an oncologist who has this problem with elders, GI generation people, and they lie a lot. They don't really want to tell you how they really feel, and so the doctor really doesn't know how to prescribe treatment.
Interesting.
And if the elders kind of had this wearable tech, then they would be able to do so without really saying so, because they kind of suck it up, that it's just a flesh wound and move on. But the problem is that they really are sick and they just don't want to say so because they don't want to look weak, But this technology really kind of helps doctor have an inside view into what the patient is actually feeling. And I think that's the most exciting part. And then also for cancer treatment and all that stuff, because critical to anybody who has cancer is exercise. And, doctors are able to do certain things if they know how well patients are able to exercise.
Exactly. If patients were wearing a device that measures all this for them and inputs this data, then doctors can keep up with that and see if they're really exercising and really get an accurate story rather than the story that is portrayed to them. So what do you feel? Because I think obviously there are benefits to a quantified self and the devices that come from it, but what do you see as the drawbacks? I mean, where are we going to have to give up in order to? I don't really see any drawbacks. The only thing, I'll take that back. I see there being a drawback if someone, if insurance wants to use this against them negatively, and insurance companies try to get in on this, and they maybe hike someone's rates up because they see they're not being active, or perhaps something like that might happen one day. And then on the same note, perhaps it would also help them lower their insurance rates if there's some type of proof that they're being active. Maybe they would work something like that into it.
So you don't have to say where you work, but where a place where I used to work at, we actually. They actually allowed the use of wearable tech to track performance, because a lot of companies are doing this. They're having you having you do these physical assessments. And I know my wife, who's a teacher, she's having to do this physical assessment kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
And the company gets, I guess, better incentives if people go through these programs. But I actually was able to talk to my quote-unquote trainer, and we had to log our exercise routine all the time, every week. And I was able to log my at the time I had a bracelet, what you call it, not a Fitbit, but
was it a pedometer? Jawbone, the Jawbone up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the up. And I was able to use that instead, and then it exports like a CSV file or whatever.
That's great. Nice.
But just imagine, that's all kind of, that's not mandatory, but just imagine a world where it is mandatory, and all of a sudden you're getting docked because, you're smoking, you decide to lie about it, but then your insurance company detects a certain amount of carcinogens in your body, And then, not only do they dock you, but they double dock you because now you proved yourself a liar.
Yeah, I mean,
They'll do the same thing with car insurance now. If they find out you got into more wrecks than what you tell them, then you get charged for it.
wow. Yeah, see, in situations like that, I could see it being an issue. If you're trying, basically, it's like nothing is hidden anymore, but not that you should have to hide anything. However, there's probably some things that people don't want to share and, and keep things quiet. And it's even, it kind of makes me think of driving and GPS and, how fast it shows that you're going, right? Especially like if you're like
that's very true.
Yeah, on the Waze app, it will show me how fast I'm going. And if I share that with someone, or not Waze, Glimpse. I'm thinking about Glimpse, and it will show that, and people could, I don't know, they could arrest you for that even, or give you a ticket if you're speeding. So it's kind of like, it's kind of creepy when all that stuff is out there, but at the same time, it's also very helpful. For me, I just kind of think, well, these devices are, I like to be able to track myself, and I would like to know my sleep patterns and how many calories I supposedly burn, and if I'm active that day, and if I'm not, then I look down. I'm like, oh well, geez, I better go do something active. So for me, it's like a little coach, and I like it for that on a very basic level. I like it as a health coach.
Yeah, that I like it for the same reason, but at the same time, I think it's like you mentioned, Robert Scoville's book. Was it called The Contextual Self?
Age of Context.
Age of Context. I think that's where that's the dangerous area, is where you take all this data and you're not a scientist. I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a sociologist, and then you start drawing these correlations when what they are indirect correlations, and you start. I think really the context that you build about yourself is really false, because it can't be who you really are. Because I can just give you an example. My wife will not wear any of this material, and her students will not wear any of these materials in class, or maybe they will outside the class. But right away, you cannot directly infer how someone is, because you're not with them 24/7.
That's true. Yeah.
It's data. It's kind of like Facebook. That's kind of why I'm off Facebook, is I don't really know who people are based on the comments they're making, because I don't really know, whether they're serious or not. I can't really build a contextual picture around this individual. It really kind of forces you to build these false premises.
It does. Yes.
Yeah. And,
exactly.
Technology is really dangerous in that area where you think you know someone when you really don't. And then when you start doing it on yourself, I think it would be even more dangerous. Like, what happens when these devices start telling you that you have like a 70% likelihood of developing some sort of cancer?
Yeah, then, in my opinion, if you see something like that, you're going to either change your habits or change what you're doing to try to make yourself healthier, or B, get the idea in your head and then concoct the illness on your own through negative thoughts.
Negative energy, negative right? Mm-hmm. So that's an issue. I mean, there's still a lot to who we are that we don't know. And then we're starting to get the data now of what we do, but that really doesn't really say who we are, and I really think we need to know who we are first before we start making these references to data and other things that we do, So I think from an advertising perspective, I think they can kind of directly infer one way or another whether or not you like their product. But I think it starts getting into, again, that dangerous territory where they think they know.
I like the idea, though, of it being, you're right, it depends on how people use it, but I'm thinking with the elderly, when people live by themselves and they're old and they get sick or something happens and, you know, you don't know. It'd be nice to have some type of way to track the well-being of those folks, and know if they're inactive, and then it sends out something to let you know, or I don't know. I'm just kind of.
Oh no, yeah, you're totally right. Like, but what happens if they just stop eating? You know, then you're going to have this idea that they're okay when they aren't, because you know they're not able to eat anymore. And the next thing you know, it kind of builds this false sense of security.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So I just really think that let's just focus on the exercise, and let's focus on whether or not people are fit, whether they're moving. Let's just stay focused on the actual activity. Mm-hmm. Instead of like talking about context and stuff, because that's where it starts getting scary to me, because then I know the next step is taking the data and the context that we think we can infer from it, and then start building artificial intelligence that can kind of simulate this context, and then can adapt and learn. And next thing we know, we're in the Skynet situation where robots are taking over the world because they think they know that they're doing better, they're serving the better good of humanity, you know?
I laugh, but the thing of it is, it's all possible, you know? I mean,
I mean, when I was in training, we had to adhere to the standard. It was called SCORM, SCORM. Mm-hmm. And SCORM was basically built for artificial intelligence. So the idea was to create this context around training, and then the bits of chunks would eventually one day be able to be put together with artificial intelligence. The bits of metadata would then create artificial intelligence to like do things like understand like how to manufacture rivets more efficiently, you know. Whereas it really never came to fruition, because you know there's so much to intelligence that we just don't understand, that you know in the end, you know, you still have people on the floor, on these factory floors at like a GM plant or whatever, doing these rivets, because it is still an art form, you know, and machines still cannot do that. You can't teach that, and there's a reason for that. You know, it's because there's something else that makes humans function, at least in my mind, that is not about just the data. It's something else. It's where creativity comes from. You know, I know Anne Rand would like to think she knows where art is and where it comes from, but you know, I think it's that something else that makes us human.
Definitely.
So I'm real excited, but then I'm real scared at the same time, because you know when I can just imagine all these websites that are going to be coming out next year around these devices, and they start building these indirect correlations, and then you know, next thing you know, the world plunges into World War III, because we think we know what the Russians are feeling at the time. You know, I just get really scared about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely go a lot further than what we're seeing right now, you know, and at least right now we're in the safe stage, and hopefully we'll stay that way, and it will be more if we're just tracking our weight, what we eat, and you know, just from a fitness standpoint, fitness and sleep.
Yeah, I'm all on board with tracking like activity. I really like that. I see there's a benefit of just being aware that you're active.
Right.
And then I also would like to see wearable tech and your I would also like to be able to see you share more. And with the smaller devices, I think, I think your quantified self would be better for that, or physiologics.
I think so too. And I think it needs to be a lot better than what we're at right now. Mine, I get aggravated with my device that I wear right now, because of the fact that it doesn't properly measure. I know that I'm more active than what it says, yet it doesn't show that. And that aggravates me.
And that's exactly why I asked you at the very beginning, because we have that same problem with our Fitbit too. And we know it's not entirely correct. And then you start doubting everything.
Yeah, it makes you, I really get mad. I'm like, I yell at it and it's stupid. But I mean...
No, we do. It started some conversations like, how exactly do I correct this? Because it's just wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So I think everyone knows that it needs to get better than what it is now. And definitely I think with the iWatch and other items that are coming out, it will, I think, incorporate this, and that I hope it does that at least. And, but then there are the ones that are just dedicated straight up towards fitness, so I don't know.
We will see. And the iWatch hopefully will come out next spring. So
yeah, I hope so. I can't wait. I want it now.
Yeah, I know.
I want it for Christmas, the holidays.
Yeah, I'm thinking that Apple is creating demand, and just by constantly flooding the rumor mills. And yeah, I know Google's probably work on something. They got the glasses, and everybody's work on something. But I think when we talk about the wonderful world of your quantified self, I think when we I imagine I go to these new consoles that are coming out next month, and this is really it. I mean, the PS4 and the Xbox One, they're all going to be able to do this to a certain extent. And, the gamers, they stay on their devices forever. So we'll see where the data leads, hopefully better products.
Which one did you say you ordered? Did you order the new, what did you order?
Hopefully PS4.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay, so you haven't ordered it yet. Okay.
No, it's why I asked for it for Christmas. So
okay.
Got my fingers crossed. But yeah, it's just from what I'm hearing, it's an amazing device, and Sony's doing it right this time, so it'd be really cool.
Nice.
But we'll see. I mean, there's biometrics are going to be everywhere, but it's and so is the data. Or biometrics is the data, so we'll see. We'll see how people can capitalize off it.
I think it's just making technology smarter and making it more so that it can interact better with humans, right?
Yeah.
And just the interface is changing before our eyes. It's not just we were in the time of PCs beginning, right? In the beginning, that's when the Apple first launched, and some of the others that had first launched back in, what was it, the 70s, I think?
Yep,
and
that's right.
Yeah, and that's great for them, but now it's how many years later, and it's time for a new way to engage with technology. And I think that's where we're on the cusp of that era. So
definitely, and I'm sure that's going to lead to future shows down the road.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. So, but I don't want people to be afraid of it, and that's the whole point of this show, Tech Anarchy. Is there's a lot of technology out there, and it's very easy to be afraid of it, but understanding is key. So hopefully we brought some into this discussion.
I think so. I hope so.
So Jennifer, just to wrap up, I thought I'd like to talk about the next episode, because I guess we really haven't discussed the next episode, but I kind of had an idea of what I'd like to talk about.
Okay.
And I'm calling it The Power of Secrets.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and I'm thinking what we could do is we could cover NSA surveillance of the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, which is interesting, and Snowden's weekly leaks, because apparently that's becoming like a... I wish he had RSS feed just to make it easier for me to get some of this content. And then Valerie Plame was on Bill Maher, which is really interesting. Just what little she did have to say on the show was shocking. So, yeah. So.
Well, that sounds extremely interesting, and I am going to really look forward to the next show.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
it's been awesome.
It has been. Thank you for putting this together today. And yeah, sorry that we had.
joining.
Oh, you're welcome. Sorry, everyone, that we had some technical difficulties in the middle, but thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, and look forward to more episodes and show notes on techanarchy.com, and also find us on Google+.
Thank you.